Okay, I want to start off by giving all praises to Yahweh, Ba'ashim, Yahweh Shai, Ba'ashim, Rakat, Kodash. Double honours to the apostles and elders of Great Millstone, who teacheth the Bible in 100% truth, and shalom to the hopeful elect of the 12 tribes of Israel, especially the 144,000, who consist of the Negroes, Latinos, Native Americans in the land of the Americas, as well as the speckled bird, the Israelite foreigners living amongst the other nations. Shalom to you. Okay, so over the last few days, we've all witnessed, mainly online, all the events that are happening. We've got Florida and moving up through, Central America, various areas. We've seen the situation with Helene and what they're referring to here as Milton. This is a Telegraph. Hurricane Milton tornado kills 13 and 3 million left without power in Florida. That is what... That was 8:17 p.m. UK time. So it's probably changed by now, or all these different reports coming in. And we've all witnessed the events that have been happening over the last few days. And, we're witnessing there's tremendous destruction taking place. And, there's many things that are going on all at once. We've got, situation with the weather. We've got this hurricane and so on and so forth. And then you've also got other smaller things underlying that, people talking about, compensation, what they're receiving, lack of help, so on and so forth, and things like that. So I want to be careful with what I'm saying, because obviously, even though this topic's about the weather, if you like, they're labeling certain things as conspiracy theories. So for that reason, I'm trying to kind of hold down the wording, because I don't want to get the video highlighted in any particular way. But we've seen what's been happening. There's a picture down here. This is Helene, and we kind of see the direction, the path that is taken. And obviously now, we're seeing at the minute what's going on is Milton. They call it a hurricane. Yeah, Hurricane Milton. And, so over the last few days, you've got people that say, look, this is judgment from the Most High. You're seeing mass destruction, people getting put out of their homes. There's a lot of people are dying. I saw a video, for example, where these people were in their house, the water started coming in. Next thing you know, they open the door and there's an alligator, sitting on the other side of the door. So there's all sorts of things happening. And, the times that we're in, we keep warning that this is the beginning of sorrows, the beginning of Jacob's trouble. I mean, I've said myself that the Most High, I said it about a month ago, the Most High is about to turn the world upside down. And since then, last week was the escalation in violence in the Middle East. This week, it's tornadoes and hurricanes. So, what's coming next week? This is what we have to ask ourselves. So we know we're in that time. We know things are going to keep building. They're going to keep coming thick and fast. And ultimately, this is all judgment from Yahweh, Ba'ashim, Yahweh Shai, leading us up to the hour of temptation, the MOTB, Revelation chapter 13, if you're not sure about what the acronym MOTB means. And so this is what we're witnessing. We're preparing ourselves. We're seeing these events and we understand this is what's happening. And we understand at the times we're in. But then, you get people that say, no, this situation with the weather, for example, is manipulated by Esau, his Edomites. And so you kind of have two schools of thought. For example, this is Isaiah 29:6. It says, thou shalt be visited of Yahweh of hosts with thunder, and with earthquake, and with great noise, with storm and tempest, and the flame of devouring fire. So, you could try to equate that with multiple things. There's quite a few different, like, these weather events that have been happening slowly over the course of the last few years. They seem to be building in intensity. And so, for example, it's, with storm and tempest, it's what you're witnessing at the minute with Helene and Milton. But like I say, you've got some people that will say, no, this is Esau, this is the Edomites, it's not the Most High doing that. Well, whose hour of temptation are we waiting to see? We're expecting, according to the scriptures, according to the Holy Spirit, through the power of Yahweh Ba'ashim Yahweh Shai, we understand that the hour of temptation is the Most High's hour of temptation, is his MOTB. He sets that hour of temptation up, and he sets that trap really for the Israelites, because, if you're of the other nations, then whether you take it or not is not really here or there. You're going to get judged. That's the time we're living in. And really the message that goes out, especially to those in Babylon the Great, America, to not take the MOTB, that is a message for Israelites in America. Don't take the MOTB. If you do, you'll definitely eat a missile. So, but the power of that judgment, the power of that temptation, the power of the hour of temptation, if you like, it rhymes, that is given to Esau by Yahweh, by Hashem, Yahweh Shai. And he's blessed with the sword. So we tell you all the time, the technology that comes, the destructive technology that Esau has, these powerful weapons, the nuclear ICBMs. They didn't just create the ICBMs off their own back. They were the understanding was given by Yahweh, by Hashem, Yahweh Shai. Now's the time for me to put the spirit on men, mainly Esau, to build these weapons. So he did, and the purpose is that so the Most High, Yahweh, by Hashem, Yahweh Shai, can have them let off in that great day of judgment. So it's ultimately the Most High's plan, but it gets put into the hands of particular people. We're all, part of a play, and we all have our different roles to play. So, you can't say, well, I want to play the role of a prophet, and then, go out there and start stacking 150 mil in the bank. It's not, it's contradicting ethics by doing those two things. So, for example, if you come across somebody like that in that particular situation, then you've got to ask yourself, is this really a man of the Most High? So we play our roles, and Esau plays his role. So when the Most High says you will be visited with storm and tempest amongst many other things, we automatically assume that is something driven by the power of Yahweh Ba'ashim Yahweh Shai, driven by the power of the angels. But then we don't, we assume, we automatically make this, or we don't make this connection that it's got anything to do with man or human being. Because, in a simple sense, before this technology came along, we're not used to humans affecting the weather. So it doesn't seem like such a thing. And even though it's something they're capable of at the minute, it's not something that they come out and present to us on a very open scale. So, it was the same thing in 2020 and 2021 with the C-19. I remember saying to a Jake, like, trying to explain to him, like, this is the Most High. He's going through this process where he starts setting us up for these end times. And I was trying to explain to him at the time that what was happening with the C-19 is a test run. And I was saying, look, judgment's gone out because certain people have kicked the bucket in the meantime through this scenario. But it's also a warning to us Israelites, a test run to understand what we're, especially the elect, the ones that will be given the spirit to survive this time coming up. It was a test run for them. And so me, myself, I looked around and I could see people were weak. And I said, well, you're likely to be weak when the MOTB comes out. Me personally, I kept strong. I was working in the hospital. I didn't want to take the juice. But I said, fuck it. I work here. I'm going to keep working here. And if I'm going to be protected, there is a higher power that can protect me. So that's the choice I made. Some people made the other choice. They said, no, do you know what? I can't. nervous, I'm listening to the propaganda, it's getting me. And they went and took the juice. So that was like a test run. But then remember saying to this Jake, and trying to explain that to him, and he's going, no, it's not the Most High, it's the Chinese. And then she's like, this is when you're dealing with Scooby-Doo again. It's back to Scooby. Scooby. I can't raise my voice. I don't have a high-pitched voice, but you get that whole Scooby-Doo look. And you're trying to explain to him, say, look, who made the Chinese? Who put the Chinese in China? Who gave them the brain power to exist and do what they do? The Most High. So they do what he wants them to do, whether they realize it, whether you realize it or not. But this is the connection that Jake can't get past. And so, we're here now. Like I say, we're seeing this great storm and tempest taking place over the last week or so. And then, we know this is judgment from the Most High, but we also know that the Most High has given a lot of the judgments into the hand of the Edomites. So the Edomites are the ones that present you the judgment. I've said before, you get mad, which I do. I get angry when these Edomites are racist to you. It makes you angry, so on and so forth. But it's the Most High that put them there to be racist to you, to piss you off, because you're in captivity. So, you can't expect to walk around captivity and have a nice life, and everybody's being, nice to you and happy as Larry, treating you like a superstar. That's not captivity. Captivity is to make you feel small, make you feel like a piece of shit, basically. And so one way to do that is to be racist to you. And so the Most High set us up in this scenario for us to feel it. And then so when we come round to remembering who we are, here we are back again, and we go, oh, okay, so that's why I've been made to feel this way, because ultimately we went off. When you go back to the wilderness, so on and so forth. So, you do well to basically put the blame for everything at the Most High, if you understand what I'm trying to get at. When something bad happens to you, yeah, we get angry at people around. I do it all the time. I want to headbutt people and so on and so forth. Not that I do, but you feel like it. But at the same time, you have to understand that we've been put in this scenario. We've been put into this low level of lifestyle, lifetime that we live. And it is a punishment. So you can't complain when you're getting punished for doing something wrong in the first place. Although we do cry out, we ask the Most High to change this. We repent. That's the whole idea of repenting. We realise what you've done wrong. We hold our hands up. And, through that, Lord willing, you receive the grace from Yahweh Hashem Yahushai in these last days. So that's what I'm looking at today. The fact that you've got this thing called the weather, which is something we assume is only controlled by the Most High, but then the Most High put the elements of the weather in control of these Edomites, able to bring harsher punishment upon us. Just like he put the understanding of the MOTB into his mind, the setup, the network, the NWO, he put all that into their minds to go ahead and do it, to go ahead and get us in the scenario that we're in today. And so before I move on, these are well-known scriptures, but I'm just two basic scriptures to set the scene. I mean, we know that we're, in the book of Daniel, knowledge shall be increased. We know the children of darkness are wiser than the children of light. And so, we're in that time where we can witness these things. And this is Ecclesiastes. And just starting at verse 1, it says, the words of the preacher, the son of David, king in Jerusalem. So that would be Solomon, King Solomon. It says, vanity of vanities, saith the preacher, vanity of vanities, all is vanity. It says, what profit hath a man of all his labour which he taketh under the sun? It says, one generation passeth away, and another generation cometh. but the earth abideth forever. It says, the sun also ariseth, and the sun goeth down, and hasteth to his place where he arose. It says, the wind goeth towards the south, and turneth about unto the north, it whirleth about continually, and the wind returneth again according to his circuits. And so does our spirits, because we read of the generation coming and passing in the next generation, and we also understand that reincarnation is a biblical concept. You're reborn in your father's bloodline every third or fourth generation, and you live out your judgment from your previous life. In your previous life, you can receive instant judgment. If you're wicked, you're going about doing a whole lot of wickedness, the Most High can put you away at any time he likes. However, when you come back, you then live out the judgment of your previous life. Really, when you come back and you live out the judgment of your previous life, your time is already set, how long you're going to live for. So even though we say, oh, you got judged for this and that, that could have been set from previously. The Most High could have thought, well, you did this in this lifetime, I'm going to judge you for that in the next lifetime, and I'm only going to give you 60 years or 35 years or 40 years, and then I'm going to switch you off. Who knows? So, but either way, we understand that we have this cycle of events, and our spirit returns to, and it goes in a particular circuit, and we come back down on earth, and then we die, then we go back up, and then we come back down, third or fourth generation. So that in itself is a circuit, as well as the wind, the worldwide winds, the earthly winds, and the sun and the moon, and so on and so forth. It says, all the rivers run into the sea, yet the sea is not full. Unto the place from whence the rivers come, thither they return again. So there's another circuit. It says, all the things are full of labour, man cannot utter it. The eye is not satisfied with seeing, nor the ear filled with hearing. It says, the thing that have been is that which shall be, and that which is done is that which shall be done. And there is no new thing under the sun. So that's referring to our spirits coming back, fashions, trends, so on and so forth. They come back around again. At the minute, the same generation that was here with Yahweh Shai is here again today. So that again is a circuit within itself. There's no new thing under the sun. What you're seeing, the ideas of people, for example, the godly philosophies or the not so godly philosophies that people have, these have been here before, and we're just out here repeating the same thing again. But so we go back to the wind, for example. The wind goeth towards the south and turneth about the north. It whirleth about continually, and the wind returneth again according to his circuits. So from there, we understand that the Most High set up this planet, and he set up, if you like, a weather system. Let's call it a weather system. And so that weather system functions in a certain way, the same way, for example, your car functions. Your car has a job to do, and you put your foot on the gas pedal, and things happen in the engine, and the car drives down the road. Now, when don't forget, Esau is the prince of the power of the air, and so the control of the earth is put into Esau's hands at the minute, just like the control of the MOTB, just like the control of these nuclear ICBMs. It's all for a purpose. The Most High gives things to Esau to use as a weapon. He's blessed with the sword. And at the minute, what we're witnessing is weaponized weather. So he's using the weather as a weapon. Now you say, well, that's Esau then. It's something to do with the Most High. But the Most High set it up for him to be able to use it, and gave him the knowledge and understanding and how to use it. So effectively, the Most High gave this car to Esau, and then gave the knowledge to Esau to add a turbo to the car. And then how does your turbo work on the car? Your turbo receives air, it activates, and then it adds more power to the car. How does it activate? It needs air. So where does it get the air from? Well, your car, the way it was made, already releases air. at the back of the car is called the exhaust. So what Esau realized is that if I take the turbo and I take some air that's escaping out the back of the exhaust, or down the exhaust pipe when it leaves the engine, if I take some of that air, catch it, throw it into the turbo, now I can activate the turbo every time the car accelerates. The turbo then moves, turns, does its thing, adds extra power to the engine moves. So effectively, it's the same thing with the planet, with the weather. The Most High set up a circuit, it works, there's a certain amount of power in there. Yes, the Most High can send angels to manipulate the weather, make it good, make it bad, make it destructive, make it calm. You think, for example, Apostle Paul went through it before. He was on the ship, shipwrecked. But the Most High made him go through the shipwreck to buy him time. So he could stop at certain places. And then in that time, he introduced the word to certain particular people. The Most High knew those people were there. And Yahushua knew those people were there. Paul didn't. Paul's on the ship with the soldiers, so on and so forth. And so Esau, at that time, Esau wasn't around with his weather controlling techniques. So that was clearly the Most High sent some angels, storm up the weather, make the boat, run aground. Eventually it ran aground. They had to run it aground just to get off it. And so that's what happened. But then, like I say, so this thing's set up, it's called the weather. It can be destructive, it can be calm, set up by the Most High. But then the Most High gives an understanding to Esau. He says, well, you're blessed with the weapon, and I'll show you how to weaponize this weather. If you use certain techniques, you can weaponize it. You can effectively add a turbo to this car, and I'll show you how to boost it up. And when you boost it up, I'll do it just in time for judgment. So like I say, people out there, they're going, well, no, the Most High brought this. Well, no, Esau did it. Well, Esau is the Most High's sword. That's what King David told us. So, with that, what I just said is not, we that know the truth, we understand this. We understand that. We kind of got that. But then what's bugging me is the workings of it, the technique, the understanding of it. You see, we come to the truth, we understand certain things, the Spirit works on us, so we understand that Esau's got this MOTB, so on and so forth. We understand the end result. But then we spend a lot of our time working out how we're going to get there. Oh, look, he's bringing civil war. Yep, the scriptures say that. Oh, okay, he's bringing economic collapse. Okay, well, something like that has to happen because it's a monetary change. The MOTB is clearly a change in monetary system. To be told you can't buy or sell without that device under the skin, that's a worldwide monetary change. So we watch the economy, we watch civil war, we watch all these little things. And so it's the same thing with this. It's kind of bugging me. I'm like, okay, yeah, we know this, we know that, but how? I want to know how Esau is getting that turbo to work. Like I say, the Most High gave him a car, which is the weather. So this is how it works. You put the key, you start, everything's there. It will do that all the time. You don't have to do anything to it. That's what it does. But then he gave Esau the spirit to build a turbo and add the turbo and boost up the power. And then now you're witnessing Milton and Hurricane Helene. So that's what's been bugging me for the last couple of days, and that's why I couldn't really move on from that point. I could have done a video last night, but it was bugging me to work this out. I kind of went through a few things, and then today, back again for a bit of free time, so I'm back on it. Maybe you understand this. I'm not a scientist, but I want to understand the basics of how he built this turbo, how Esau built this turbo onto this car. So you got to start off with, we're talking about weather controlling devices and techniques and so on and so forth. That's what you could put this under the bracket of. So we understand HAARP. We've heard this thing here, HAARP, HAARP. Now this stands for High Frequency Active Auroral Research Program. Don't forget that Aurora Borealis is something that we see in the north, coming from the North Pole up in the sky. So High Frequency Active Auroral Research Program, HAARP, HAARP, is a program that allows ESAW to look into the sky and understand why we're seeing that. For example, just one example, why we're seeing that green light coming out the North Pole. See, we look in the sky and we just see air. Okay, you see a cloud. What's a cloud? Cloud's moisture. It's just a bunch of moisture going past. It's a white fluffy cloud. When the cloud gets thicker and bigger, it becomes heavier. There's more moisture in there. We know that it becomes darker, and then at some point the cloud becomes too heavy. The particles of moisture within that cloud are so big that the weight of them makes them automatically want to fall. So then they start to fall, and then it's rain. Now, before I go any further, real quickly, there is another, because I was looking into it, and there is another HAARP, which is HAARP. Okay, it's not to be confused, and I've got it here on the desktop. Hang on. HAARP, so 1A, HAARP technology, which stands for High Angular Resolution Planar, or Planar. Now that HAARP, High Angular Resolution Planar, is technology they use to look into the solar system. They look up into the sky and they use it to get their pictures of what's happening in the solar system. And that's how they create a lot of these images of galaxies and so on and so forth. But we're talking about HAARP, High Frequency Active Auroral Research Program. So when you look at the atmosphere, for example, this image here, and we look at this particular image here, so you can see Earth at the bottom here. Now this is what you're getting, in between here and the ozone layer. The scriptures call it the firmament. We understand from the book of Genesis that the firmament separates the waters from above from the waters below. And we understand it in the days of Noah, the window was opened in the firmament to help flood the earth. We also know that water came up from under the ground. And this all added up to that great flood in the days of Noah. But between us and the firmament, this is what you're seeing on the screen here. This is what you're going to get. So you're going to have Earth, and then the immediate air, 14 kilometers up, we've got the troposphere. And then the 4 kilometers above that, 18 kilometers, you've got the tropopause. And then you have the stratosphere. You then have the ozone layer, for example, and then you have the mesosphere and the ionosphere, aurora. And so this is what, and then you can see the distance, 350 kilometers up in the air. So this is what ESAW uses HAARP, HAARP. Let me just go back. So remember that picture there. And so you've got HAARP, High Frequency Active Auroral Research Program. So that's what HAARP does. It looks up into that area, and then that's how he can understand what's happening, for example, with the Aurora Borealis. When he goes to the HAARP, the High Angular Resolution Planar, that goes beyond into these galaxies and whatever else. So you've got, that's one thing I'll say to when people say HAARP, then you see the spelling HAARP. They get, you see people, they get it confused. They're talking about this, but then they're talking about this, but HAARP. Oh, it's HAARP. No, it's HAARP. The other HAARP is a different thing, slightly different thing. So, what is HAARP? This is here, the High Frequency Active Auroral Research Program, HAARP, AA, HAARP, is the world's most capable, high power, high frequency transmitter for study of the ionosphere. Just quickly so you can have an understanding. You see the ionosphere at the top, the dark blue, the aurora. So that's where you're going to get your aurora borealis, the lights, the northern lights. Back to here. HAARP allows them to look into the atmosphere and understand what particles are there and what's you're going to read from this. Basically they study the ionosphere, and obviously they can see everything, up until that point. It says the principal instrument in the ionospheric research instrument, IRI, a phased array of 180 HF cross dipole antennas spread across 33, so we know 33 is a Masonic number, across 33 acres, and capable of radiating 3.6 megawatts into the upper atmosphere and ionosphere. Transmit frequencies are selectable in the range of 2.7 to 10 megahertz, and since the antennas form a sophisticated phased array, the transmitted beam can take many shapes, can be scanned over a wide angular range, and multiple beams can be formed. The facility uses 30 transmitter shelters, each with 6 pairs of 10 kilowatt transmitters, to achieve the 3.6 megawatt transmit power. So they're basically pumping out electricity, energy into the air through these beams. And because they've got this 33 acres and these 30 antennas, they can cross them in different directions and make different patterns. But you can't always see the pattern. You can't really see the pattern because they're just beamed up in there. It's electricity. It's just getting beamed up there. 3.6 megawatts and transmit power. So what is HAARP, HAARP used for? It says the goal of the research at HAARP is to conduct a fundamental study of the physical process at work in the very highest portions of our atmosphere. It's more to do with reading it. Obviously, when they read it, then they want to know how they can manipulate it. It's about the wording. When you're dealing with science and technology, engineering, those types of things, you got to get your wording right. You go onto a building site and you call the wrong terms, you're going to end up with something that's going to go wrong. So you kind of sometimes have to address the terms that you're using to understand it properly. It says the thermosphere and ionosphere. So yeah, they process at work at the very highest portions of our atmosphere, the thermosphere and the ionosphere. Because this research falls into 2 categories: active, which requires the use of ionospheric research instrument, and 2, passive, which only uses monitoring instruments. So the ionosphere starts at around 6 to 80 kilometers altitude and extends up above 500 kilometers altitude. There are free electrons and ions in the ionosphere that radio waves can interact with. So this is what they found out from this. This is what they're doing. They're looking up there and they're looking for free electrons and ions in the ionosphere that radio waves can interact with. It's HAARP radio waves. So that's what they send out, radio waves. Heat the electrons and create small perturbations that are similar to the kinds of interactions that happen in nature. So what they do is they use HAARP to look up into the sky. They distinguish, there's free ions over there. There's free electrons, free ions. They can spot them. And then the radio waves heat the electrons that they're looking at and create small perturbations. So when you get perturbed from something, you get directed away. So you you want to do something and your wife is going, nah, don't do it. Then another guy says, nah, I won't bother doing that. You think about you getting a job and someone says, nah, I won't work for them. They're not that good. And someone else says it to you. Then the third person says it to you. Nobody's actually told you not to go and work there. But the fact that you keep hearing these bad reviews, then think, and you end up being perturbed. So they're looking at these free electrons, free ions, and then they heat up the electrons to create movement and push them in directions that are similar to the kinds of interactions that happen in nature. Natural phenomena are random and often difficult to observe. But with HAARP, scientists can control when and where the perturbations occur, so they can measure their effects. In addition, they can repeat experiments to confirm their measurements really show what researchers think they do. So it's more of a research tool, although they do heat they are actually doing something physically by, sending out these radio waves, these 3.6 megawatts, and heating up the electrons. It says why was HAARP developed? The High Frequency Active Auroral Research Program began in 1990 as congressional initiative to expand our knowledge of the Earth's upper atmosphere and their effects on radio wave propagation. The particle emphasis was placed on being able to understand and use it to enhance communications and surveillance systems for both civilian and defense purposes. Between 1990 and 2014, HAARP was jointly managed program of the United States Air Force and United States Navy. Its goal was to research the physical and electrical properties of the Earth's ionosphere, which can affect our military and civilian communication and navigation systems. And it goes into who owns HAARP and all that. You can look into that if you want. I'll leave the link for this in the description box. So now you understand what they're doing with HAARP. They'll look up into the sky, and now they know. Like I say, you look in the sky. What do you see? You just see air. And well, how many electrons are there? How many ions are there? What's going on here? What's going on? You can't see all that. Okay, you can see the aurora borealis, and all you know is just a green light that comes from the North Pole. Esau breaks these things down, and he used these study tools, these mechanisms, to look into air and distinguish between what electrons, for example, and ions are in the air. So Esau knows how to research stuff. He knows how to see deep into things and understand it. I've always used the same point. Esau is that cunning hunter, and one way in which he hunts is that he has to find all these things out. So he'd take a flower, he'll dissect it just to find out what's inside the flower. We're spiritual people, so you want to grow a flower. You know when the sun comes, the flower's going to grow. Then it's hot day, the flower's withering, it's looking a bit dry, maybe I'll give some water to it. Then it grows. So you've worked out. We're natural people, so we work out through the spirit that, the sun and the water is going to make this flower grow. But Esau has to hunt it down, the answer. He has to slice it open, look in there. Then he has to add a word to it, photosynthesis. And then he reverse engineers. He creates solar panels. That's what Esau, that's how a lot of the things in the world, when you actually equate a lot of the machines, the mechanisms, the mechanical instruments we have in this world, a lot of them equate back to the human body or the ecosystem. Because Esau's looked at it and realized, oh yeah, that's how you do it. And that's what he does. Your car breathes like you breathe. And so the more air you pump into the car, the faster it will go. If you want to make your car faster, get an air induction kit. A bit like a turbo. It will pump more air into the engine and make it go faster. So Esau's worked that out. So he applies that to natural things, and he creates scientific ways to do it. So, going back to the circuits, because the Most High put the circuits out here for us, the weather, and then he gave Esau the understanding on how to build a turbo to add to the engine, boost up the power. Now this is from the Met Office, and we're looking at high and low pressure. High and low pressure systems cause day-to-day changes in our weather. In this article, we look at how they are defined and how they form. What do we mean by pressure? It says the Earth's atmosphere exerts pressure on the surface. Pressure is measured in hectopascals, also called millibars. Standard pressure at sea level is defined at 1013 HPA, but we can see larger areas of either high or low pressure. These areas are relative to each other, so what defines a high will change depending on the area around it. Remember, you look up in the sky, you're on a ship, you're over here, you're on a bit of land, you're on a boat, you're looking in the sky, you see air. You don't know if the pressure is high or low. Well, how can you tell? But Esau can tell. He's got these tools to look into the air and see what is in it. Weather chart. So on a weather chart, lines joining places with equal sea level pressure are called isobars. It says charts showing isobars are useful because they identify features such as anticyclones, areas of high pressure, and depressions, areas of low pressure. There's ascending and descending air. It says areas of high and low pressure are caused by ascending and descending air. So when air drops up and drops low, what's happening in that ionosphere, in the stratosphere, hot rises, cool drops. So it's having an effect. It's part of the natural circuit. So areas of high and low pressure are caused by ascending and descending air. As air warms, it ascends, leading to low pressure at the surface. As air cools, it descends, leading to high pressure at the surface. In general, low pressure leads to unsettled weather conditions and high pressure leads to settled weather conditions. So if you're in an area where it's nice and hot and the sky's clear and there's not many clouds, you look up in the sky and I say, what's the pressure? You don't know. I don't know. I can't see. It's just air. But you know now from Esau's understanding that when it's warm like that and there's no clouds, you're in a high pressure area. And any clouds or wind or unsettled weather that flows into that area will get directed around the high pressure area. It can't break the high pressure area. So you have these areas, for example, you might have, this summer for me, I was in obviously a low pressure area because all summer it just rained. And part of the reason why I'm doing this research, not just from seeing Helene and Milton, is also from what I witnessed here, because the last few weeks, like the rain is just bucketing. It doesn't just bucket for hours and hours. It will rain for 10 minutes. But it's like 2 weeks worth of rain in a day. And it got so bad to the point where I've even had to, where my workshop is, and I built this myself. This workshop, it's about 500 square feet. And I built it in 2017. I've never had any problem. And all of a sudden, from the back end of last summer and then this summer, all through this summer, the ground can't handle the rainfall to the point where I've had to drill drainage holes at my door because it keeps building up. Then you've got 2 inches of rain sitting outside on the floor, and then it wants to start creeping into the room. A few times in the last few weeks I've gone to do the school run. It seems like every day at 3:15, all of a sudden, bang, it starts bucketing down. It's just ridiculous amounts of rain, and something in your head. You think this is not right. This is not normal. But you can't really put your finger on it. And then obviously looking at the Helene and Milton, understanding it. That's why I'm kind of going through all this stuff to understand it. So high pressure is good weather. Low pressure is bad weather, unsettled. The clouds, the wind, the rain, they break. It's all that, windy. So when you're in that type of weather, like for example, autumn, your classic autumn weather, that's unsettled, that's low pressure. High pressure is hot, nice, warm, clear, fair skies. It's an anticyclone, right? We're going to look at that, and then we'll look at depression, high pressure, low pressure. So in an anticyclone, high pressure, the winds tend to be light and blow in a clockwise direction in the northern hemisphere. Also, the air is descending, which reduces the formation of cloud and leads to light winds and settled weather conditions. Depression, low pressure. In a depression, low pressure, air is rising and blows in an anti-clockwise direction around the low in the northern hemisphere, and it rises and cools. Water vapor condenses to form clouds and perhaps precipitation. This is why the weather in a depression is often unsettled. There are usually weather fronts associated with depressions. And so this is talking about the northern hemisphere, the fact that it goes clockwise and anti-clockwise. When you go south of the equator, the opposite thing occurs. But we're just dealing with the north. That's where I am. You know, America's in the north, and that's what we're witnessing, what's happening in the north. And yeah, where it said here, this is why the weather in a depression, hang on a sec, in a depression, low pressure, air is rising and blows anti-clockwise around the low. As it rises and cools, water vapor condenses to form clouds and perhaps precipitation, which is rain. This is why weather in a depression is often unsettled. There's usually weather fronts. Yeah, weather fronts. So when you're watching the weather, and you see that these blues and the reds, this is weather fronts. When you look at the lines underneath, the white lines, that there's many of them, that is your pressure. And so depending on how high or low the pressure gets, depends on the build-up of activity on the weather front when you have those lines. I believe the isobars are the white ones. That's what they're called, isobars. So that's just a bit of common knowledge. You know, hot rises, cold. You've got these winds trying to go up, winds that are trying to go down. You know, you've got wind coming up from the south, clashing with the wind coming in from the east. And so what happens when they meet? They have to move in certain directions. And this is what we can't see when we look up into the sky. But Esau can, because he has this technology. Blocking patterns. So we're getting an understanding of why the weather's the way it is, why hot comes, why cold comes. Remember, there is a circuit, so it follows a certain pattern. That's why in the east, in the winter, you tend to get the easterly wind, which brings in the cold. But then in the summer, you're supposed to, where I am in the UK, we're supposed to get a southerly wind, which is supposed to bring up warm weather from the south. But it can be affected depending on whether you're in a high or low pressure area. And then you have to add in blocking patterns. Blocks are areas of high pressure that remain nearly stationary and distort the usual eastward progression of pressure systems. Right. So now we're getting somewhere. It says, what is blocked weather? Usually weather fronts which bring rain move from west to east across the UK, but sometimes they can stay where they are or even go from east to west. And this is usually due to a block. This just means that a big area of high pressure is remaining almost stationary over the same area for a long time. The high pressure can stop weather fronts moving past it so that they skirt around the edges and stay where they are for an extended period of time. So, for example, if you've got a high pressure area over the UK for a long time, any wind, rain, unsettled weather, low pressure that comes and hits it will automatically be diverted around it. So you'll miss it if you're in the high pressure area, but if you're around the outsides of it, you're going to feel the effects of the unsettled weather more and more. And don't forget, these winds are coming from the sea, so they're bringing with it, as they build up and they come, the unsettled weather, these cyclones and things, they're collecting up more and more moisture with it. It says, in terms of the weather you will get, this means that under the high pressure, the weather will remain mainly dry and settled for a few days or perhaps weeks. However, if you're in an area where there are weather fronts, you are likely to get wet and windy for a long time. How does the weather become blocked? A weak jet stream or its position is one way in which an area of high pressure can become slow moving. The jet stream helps to develop and steer areas of low pressure around. So if it's weak or positioned well away from the UK, high pressure can become more influential in our weather. As a jet stream is driven by temperature difference, don't forget they heat up the electrons when they're studying what's in the air in HAARP, HAARP. Says the jet stream is driven by temperature difference. It will be weaker if the difference is small. Sometimes the jet stream flow buckles and an area can become separated and almost break off, taking low pressure with it and weakening its west to east movement. Another thing that can change the jet stream is something called sudden stratospheric warming. This alters our prevailing wind direction and can sometimes bring us easterly winds, with high pressure sitting to the east of the UK. However blocking patterns form, large areas of high pressure can become quite stubborn and difficult to move once established. So if somebody could establish high pressure areas, you then direct the winds, the unsettled weather around it. You can, if you were to able to at will create high pressure areas, you then create swirling winds that swirl in and out of these high pressure areas, as you can see on the map here. And then you would be able to push unsettled weather into certain areas. This is very black and white once you logically work your way through it. What are the main types of blocking? There are two types of blocks, an omega block and a diffluent block, and are most common in spring. Exceptionally, they can persist for months around midsummer, like 1976, or midwinter 1963. An omega blocks are named due to the pattern they form, which resembles the uppercase Greek letter omega. An area of high pressure will be sandwiched in between two lows to the east and west, and also slightly to the south. These blocks frequently occur on the eastern edges of the Atlantic and Eastern Pacific, and can lead to easterly flows to the UK. So for example, if you're able to create a high pressure, like here again, you can keep the UK in a warm climate, and then you can direct the low pressure into these other particular areas. You know, you see one, for example, here with low pressure with the UK, but now you move the pressure there, and then the low pressure moves around the unstable weather. A diffluent block, a split in the eastwards flow, can lead to a diffluent block. Examples with a closed high center to the north of a closed low center in the south are more likely to last for a prolonged period of time. So you can see here, for example, you know, if the high pressure's there, you could end up with unsettled weather. So for example, UK could have high pressure all summer, and it could be quite a stubborn high pressure spot that could keep good weather on the UK, but then France at the bottom below that would just constantly be getting low pressure because of that high pressure spot. The high pressure really controls it, because if you can keep the high pressure in certain areas and keep the sky clear, yes, it will get hot, it'll be nice and summery. I know some people in parts of America, for example, have been saying it's been really hot this summer. I haven't witnessed that. It's because they're in high pressure, stubborn high pressure areas. And then what that's doing is directing the unsettled weather according to a certain route, which may not necessarily be natural if the high pressure spots are artificially created. So Then you go to cyclones. Tropical cyclones, hurricanes, it's pretty much the same thing. There was a diagram that I wanted, which must be, hang on. So we look at this image here, for example. So now you can see tropical cyclone, a cyclone, a tropical cyclone, a hurricane, they're the same thing. They're just different words from different parts of the world to describe the same thing. And so you can see life cycle of a North Atlantic hurricane. And you look on the bottom right, you see days 1 to 5, tropical disturbance. So once you have this tropical disturbance, look where you've got northeast trade winds coming down from Europe. And then depending on how that goes, can create tropical disturbance. Days 5 to 6, tropical depression. Days 7 to 9, tropical storm. So this is how they're giving you this warning that this storm is coming in, because they're starting to see it build up over the sea. Days 10 to 15, tropical cyclone, hurricane. You go up a bit, you've got the cold front. Day 16 to 17, extralogical transition. And a warm front. And so what usually happens is, when it hits land, because it's got its own pressure system, America's a big piece of land, so it tends to hold the pressure. If it's got it, it's going to hold it, and then that will tend to push it away. Usually these hurricanes, these cyclones hit the edge, and they do a lot of damage, and then they tend to disappear. The difference between Helene is that it's gone straight into America. It's heading towards the center of America. So now you have to ask yourself, what's going on with the cold fronts, with the warm fronts, with the pressure? Is there high pressure spots around, for example, where you can see, days 10 to 15 tropical cyclone just by Florida, and then it's gone up north towards New York. But if that's a massively high pressure, if you can create a high pressure spot there and make a stubborn one, then you're gonna push that unstable weather inland, because it can't go where it wants to go, so it's gonna force its way across the land. So there's your kind of understanding on that. Going back to the website itself, tropical cyclone, there's a bit more of a detailed picture. And so remember what I said, you look at the picture on the bottom left, that's a turbo. That's what you call a turbo. The weather has its pattern, it has its things, that it does. It's like a car, it's like an engine, it will do its job. The engine will turn, it will give you power. Hang on. Adverts. Right, so they're just going to keep coming back. But yeah, and you look on the bottom left, and this is what a turbo looks like on a car. It takes in air from the exhaust and it spins around in a circle, it boosts up the power and it throws that power back into the engine. So the cyclone, hurricanes, they're a natural phenomena, if you like, from Yahweh Bashim, Yahweh Shai. But he's given the understanding to Esau of how to boost up the power, how to turbo this hurricane, how to control it with the direction. It's very easy, it's very simple. I just explained to you how to control, where they hit. We'll put high pressure spots in certain areas and you will easily be able to control the path, because it won't want to break the high pressure, and it will find the easier route wherever the low pressure is. So just quick read here. Tropical cyclone, an intense circular storm that originates over warm tropical oceans and is characterized by low atmospheric pressure, high winds, and heavy rain. Adverts are killing me, man. Hang on. And heavy rain, drawing energy from the sea surface and maintaining its strength as long as it remains over warm water. A weaker tropical cyclone, such as a tropical depression or a tropical storm, can mature to become a much stronger tropical cyclone known as a hurricane, typhoon, cyclone, or other name, depending upon the region in which it occurs. When winds exceed 74 miles per hour. In extreme cases, winds may exceed 150 miles an hour, and gusts may surpass 200 miles an hour. So accompanying these strong winds are torrential rains and devastating phenomena. I need to get off this webpage quick. Known as the storm surge, an elevation of the sea surface that can reach 6 meters above normal sea level. Such a combination of high winds and water make cyclones a serious hazard for coastal areas in tropical and subtropical areas of the world. Every year during the late summer months, July to September in northern hemisphere, in January to March in the southern hemisphere, because remember it's opposites, upside down, north and south, clockwise, anti-clockwise. Cyclones strike regions as far apart as the Gulf Coast of North America, Northwest Australia, and Eastern India and Bangladesh. This article considers only the strongest types of tropical cyclones, that is, those whose strength and intensity surpass those of tropical storms. Such strong tropical cyclones are known by various names in different parts of the world. In the North Atlantic Ocean and the Eastern North Pacific, they are called hurricanes. And in the Western North Pacific, around the Philippines, Japan, and China, the storms are referred to as typhoons. In the Western South Pacific and Indian Ocean, they are variously referred to as severe tropical cyclones, or simply cyclones. This advert, man, I tell you, it's all these different names refer to the same type of storm. So, tropical cyclones are compact circular storms, generally 200 miles in diameter, whose winds swirl around a central region of low atmospheric pressure. The winds are driven by the low pressure core and by the rotation of the earth, which deflects the path of the wind through a phenomenon known as Coriolis force. That's just to do with the earth moving, going against it. As a result, tropical cyclones rotate in a counterclockwise direction in the northern hemisphere and a clockwise direction in the southern hemisphere. They just go into the wind. Then they go into the eye of the storm. A characteristic feature of tropical cyclones is the eye, central region of clear skies, warm temperatures. But yeah, I really want to get off this page. So that's all I really need from that. But going back to the diagram, I've got the diagram up here. Hang on. So going back to the diagram, when it comes up, so you see this effect happening here, and so it's being driven by, the air. It's coming in certain directions. It's powering it like a turbo. You take the air out of your exhaust pipe, you feed it into the turbo, and it follows that swirling pattern, and it spins the turbo, and then the turbo has an exit point where it releases all the air that it just whipped up into a frenzy. And by whipping it up into a frenzy, it turns the blade turns, and then it turns something in the car. So if you understand how to control these, like I say, you understand the ions in the air, you understand the thickness, the temperatures, you understand how to push high pressure, push cold winds in certain directions, so on and so forth. Esau can't do it on a level where he can just change the whole weather like that. The Most High never gave him that power, that he can just turn off the wind. He doesn't have that level of power, but the Most High gave him the power to add turbos to the weather. And so when you saw Helene, or even this Milton, you look at them on the picture, they just the very angry cyclones, very aggressive, deep, dark, angry cyclones. They're cyclones on turbo. That's what they are. Esau just added the turbo. Esau doesn't design the pattern of how they work. He just worked out how to manipulate them by doing what? By looking into the air and understanding what's in the air. He is the prince of the power of the air. So we've got weather modification is the act of intentionally manipulating or altering the weather. The most common form of weather modification is cloud seeding, which increases rainfall or snowfall, usually the purpose of increasing the local water supply. Weather modification can also have a goal of preventing damaging weather, such as hail, hurricanes, from occurring, or provoking damaging weather against an enemy, as a tactic of military or economic warfare, like Operation Popeye. And that was an operation carried out in Vietnam by the US Navy, and it says here where clouds were seeded to prolong the monsoon in Vietnam. And you always watch these Vietnam films. Obviously it was a monsoon at certain periods, and what Esau was doing was cloud seeding, which is creating more rainfall, making them last for longer, because it's like I say, these things are powered naturally by these circuits created by Hashem Shai. But the understanding of how to whip up the storm, so to speak, add the turbo to the cyclone, Esau's got that power, that understanding. It says where clouds were seeded to prolong the monsoon. So cloud seeding. What is cloud seeding? Before we go into it, there's many types of weather manipulation. I've got it here. Basically, I went on to ChatGPT AI. Instead of looking this up, wading through the so-called conspiracy theorists and the people's opinions, and sitting there for hours, I just told ChatGPT to tell me, what devices are out there to control the weather, man manipulate it. And so it came, what I've done, whatever answer I got off the desktop, I just copy pasted it onto a Word, a PDF, and I've just thrown it over here to the phone. So you're reading the answer that ChatGPT gave me. You can see at the top it says, while no technology can completely control or manipulate weather on a global scale, there are several methods and technologies that can influence weather conditions in localized areas or have an indirect effects on the climate. Here's a list of the most notable weather modification and geoengineering technologies. So don't forget, when with HARP was being used to look into the sky and see what's in the air, and Esau's also heating up the electrons with those 3.6 megawatts, so whatever it was. So you heat up the ions in the air, you're creating a warm area. And what did we just learn? That a warm area is automatically a high pressure area. So if you can do that to certain parts of the world, you can create strong, stable, high pressure areas by warming up the electrons. So that's one way of directing bad weather away or towards certain other things. Now we're looking at other ways to manipulate the weather. We're going to see what we got. So the first one is cloud seeding, purpose to induce or enhance precipitation, rain. Okay, yeah, so like I say, I'll read there's about 15 things on here, but I only really need 2 of them. The first one here is cloud seeding, as I just said, purpose, induce or enhance precipitation. That is to enhance rain. Now, it's very simple. This is how it works. This technique involves dispersing substances such as silver iodine, potassium iodine, or sodium chloride, which is salt, into clouds. So you could effectively just do it by dumping salt into clouds, obviously with planes. So these particles act as nuclei around the moisture condenses, encouraging cloud formation and precipitation. So what they can do is they can go in a plane, they can dump salt into the skies in particular areas, and what that salt will do, because it's now a solid substance, just salt's one of them, just one of those examples. You could use silver iodine or potassium iodine, but we're going to go with the sodium chloride, which is a salt. You dump that into the air, the moisture in the air sticks to it. It wants to. It's attracted to it. And so with these moisture droplets start clinging to these grains of salt, they become heavy. And so what it does, it forms a cloud quicker by dragging the moisture out of the air. Remember, you look in the air, you can't see anything, it's just air. And then the reason why you see the cloud is because there's a whole bunch of moisture bunched up in that particular part of air. So you do that, and you can keep doing it until the point that the cloud gets thick, grey, dark grey, and say black clouds, whatever you like, and then they break, they fall. So, you could say that that's used for creating rain in a particular area. Okay, yeah, fair enough. But it can also be used to stop rain in a particular area. I'll give you an example. If you have an island and you fly a plane in a circle, say the plane's about 2 miles out from the edge, from the shore of the island. It stays about, say, 2 miles, 3 miles away from the edge of the island, and it flies in a circle continuously around the island. What would happen, don't forget England, island doesn't have to just be small, it could be a big island like England or a continent or Australia. And so what you do, you fly around in a circle, you keep dropping these, they call it cloud seeding, cloud busting. You drop the particles into the air, they collect the moisture builds up, breaks, it rains while it's on the sea before it reaches the land. If you keep doing that, not only can you make it wet in an area, but you can make it dry in a particular area by circling it and busting the clouds, if you like, before they get to that area. And so, what did we just read? Once it gets warm, the pressure starts to build. And so now you've got this high pressure spot, man-made. And then, if you keep working on it, you keep building it up. And what did it say? It said once you build the pressure up so high, these things become very, very stable. So they're uneasy to move. So they're very stable in their position. The higher the pressure becomes, and then they just become this strong high pressure point. Directing, now you stop flying the plane, you leave the scene, but now that high pressure spot is still going to stay there. It's going to direct the unstable, low pressure weather around it in a circle. And so the people on the outsides, on the edges of that particular high pressure spot circle are going to receive consistent bad weather. So cloud seeding can green up the land by making it wet. You can also use it to dry up the land if you're a little bit savvy, if you're a little bit clever with using the technology. Hail cannons, purpose to reduce hail formation in agricultural areas. Number 3, stratospheric aerosol injection, SAI, purpose to reflect sunlight to cool the earth. So now you can do that in certain areas to make it cool, to bring lower. So, you've created this high pressure spot, you've directed the low pressure into certain areas. Now you can cool it even further by reflecting sunlight and by, stratospheric aerosol injection. Injecting, it says here how it works. SIA involves injecting aerosols such as sulfur dioxide into the stratosphere to create a reflective barrier that reduces solar radiation reaching the Earth's surface. Like I said before, Esau can't just change the whole weather system how he wants it, because he's such a devil. He'd get rid of it and you'd have nothing. But The Most High never gave him that power. He just showed him how it works and showed him how to add the turbo to it. So once he creates a high pressure area, he directs the low pressure, unstable weather into other areas. He can then bring the pressure even lower in that area by reflecting sunlight with aerosols, by spraying these sulfur dioxide into the stratosphere. You remember the diagram that we saw earlier. The stratosphere was just above, as I think you started hitting about 18 kilometers up, lower part. It's all about the levels, the layers. You look in the sky, you can't see that, but Esau can, because he's got HARP. It says marine cloud brightening, purpose to increase cloud reflectivity to reduce solar radiation. Same thing basically. Ionization technology, purpose to stimulate rainfall. How it works: this method uses ion generators to release electricity charged particles into the atmosphere. These particles attract water molecules, leading to cloud formation, and then obviously it's potential rainfall, because once the cloud keeps building up, it gets grey, it gets dark, it gets black, it gets heavy, it breaks, and it rains. It says, example, some countries like UAE have experimented with ionization systems as part of their rain enhancement programs. Dubai, UAE is a desert. It's a desert. Let's not forget that it's a desert. Okay, these people moved in and built a city in the middle of a desert. But it says here the practice known as cloud seeding involves spraying chemical compounds to the air in an effort to wring more rain, like you're wringing your towel out of the sky. The United Arab Emirates carries out hundreds of these operations every year in an effort to supplement its water resources in the arid landscape. So it says here they're using cloud seeding. There it says they're using the ionization scenario. And we've all seen it over the last couple of years. You've got these major flooding in Dubai. Hang on. To images, and these are the type of images you see. This is the desert. I'll say it again, this is the desert. How are you going to get rain like this in the desert? Well, for one, they laid all this tarmac everywhere. They probably haven't built a big enough drainage system to cope, because they never really had that type of weather in the first place. But we've seen over the last 2 summers, for example, we've seen this type of situation happening in the Middle East. So they need to green up the land. They need to make it inhabitable. They need to bring water in. It's a common fact that they're using these particular methods. It's not a conspiracy theory. It's use your eyes and look at the screen. What you're all looking at is the desert, right? But it's all this rain, all this water everywhere. So this is, like I say, anyone tries to throw, conspiracy theory at you, just walk away. As Apostle Tahar says, just walk away. Dubai floods due to artificial rain or climate change. See, this is the problem. Now they're going to want to throw at you climate change. Once you can build up these high pressure spots, push the low pressure, unsettled weather into certain directions, cool those areas even more to make them even more low pressure, you have these dramatic changes. And then, apparently what they've done here in Dubai, I was reading up on it. At one point, apparently in one day, they had like 2 months worth of rainfall. And that's why it ended up like this. So, then they say, oh no, it's climate change. So what happens when your city is destroyed by this turbo boosted cyclone, like that's happening, in Florida, in all these other places? They're going to have to rebuild it. And when they rebuild it, they said, well, you know what? It was caused by climate change. So you're going to have a 15-minute city. A 15-minute city is something where everything you need is within 15 minutes. Once these things are set up and we have this digital device, this tracking device under our skins, the MOTB, to buy and sell and to track and trace, you won't be able to leave your 15-minute city. And therein lies your new prison home, your new jail. So, I mean, look at it. This is a desert. How are you going to turn a desert into this? When have you ever seen that in the middle of the desert? But you see the trees in the background, the green. So they needed it. They do it because they bring the water there, and it makes plants grow, so on and so forth. I mean, you must think when this finally soaks into the ground, the ground will be wet for months until it eventually disappears, dries out. Probably a year later or 6 months later, they go through it again. So they bring the rain down and they dump it. You can use these things, like I say, for both sides, but you just have to be clever with it. So examples it gave you. UAE have experimented with ionization systems as part of their rain enhancement programs. Laser-induced rainfall, trigger precipitation, artificial ice nuclei, purpose hail suppression or increased snowfall, ocean ion fertilization, increase carbon dioxide absorption to mitigate climate change, dams and large-scale irrigation influence local climate, carbon dioxide removal technologies mitigate climate change by removing CO2 from the atmosphere. Like I say, I'm just listing through the lot, but I've kind of labeled the ones I really wanted. Wind turbines, local effects, generate renewable energy with possible side effects on local weather. See, even if it's locally, the wind turbines are affecting the weather because this is circuit. It all has a circuit to follow. It's made in a certain way. So we'd say, oh yeah, Esau's wrecking the planet. Isaiah chapter 14, the trees will be happy, when this devil's gone. But really, he can't affect the planet as much as he wants. He keeps telling you climate change. Oh, there's a hole in the ozone layer. Esau doesn't have that much power. He's done a lot of messed up things, and he's messed a lot of stuff up. He's messed a lot of natural orders up. For example, you got men with men, women with women. They'll even bring you this damn devil will even bring you articles and tell you that they found 2 alphabet dolphins. Two alphabet dogs, and they'll give you this article. Oh, these two dolphins fell in love. They're alphabets, male and male. You'd be like, what's scratching your head? But it's just to push his agenda. But really, you don't have that much power, Esau, to wreck the weather system that badly. With all your spray cans, you think all your spray cans and you've got your cars and all that. It's just a game. It's just a game that they're playing with you. The Most High allowed them to manipulate it. They turbo boost up the bad weather. They direct it into your areas, and then they say, "Oh, it's climate change. It's climate change." And then you've got to now adjust your life, live in a 15-minute city, take this device under your skin. It's all part of a plan. Esau can do those types of things, but you can't. Esau doesn't have a weapon to create a hole in the ozone layer. He can't. He tells you he went to space to the moon. He couldn't get through the firmament. He ain't going to no moon. But he tells you he did. Then he says we created a hole in the ozone by spraying us. I remember in the 90s, they were trying to ban aerosols because we've made a hole in the ozone layer. It's 40 years later. I go to the car spray shop. I can buy any aerosol I want. Okay, they're different gases, whatever. You ain't got that power to make a hole in the ozone, because if you could have, you would have, because you're the devil. So I don't know, reading on here anyway, heat, island and urbanization, not intentional, but cities inadvertently affect weather. There you go. You're pumping out all this heat. You've got a major city pumping out heat. It's going to affect the pressures around it, the pressure. Remember, pressure brings in the low pressure brings in the bad weather, high pressure pushes it away. Space-based solar reflectors, theoretical, yeah, damn right, that's theoretical, because you can't get out there to reduce solar radiation reaching the earth. Harbors and coastal modifications, indirect effects, not designed for weather modification, but can influence local weather patterns. So Esau's the devil, man. I mean, like this cloud seeding, like I say, I've kind of explained what it is. It's quite a big thing. People could think, oh yeah, so it's to create rain, but it's also to take rain away from certain areas. You bust the clouds before they get to the island stays warm, you build up the pressure. Once you build up the pressure, then you've got the unstable pressure working in a path that you set for it, snaking in and out. And then you do more cloud seeding to add more moisture to these storms, as they build up to cyclones, tropical cyclones, and they build up to these massive things. And like I say, when you look at Babylon the Great, America, everything's coming up through, as it would normally, through the Gulf Stream. So it's coming up into like Miami, Florida, and then you've got. But then, where it would normally hit the land and travel up the land and relieve itself, because there's different types of pressure coming in off the land, Esau's created high pressure spots in certain areas, particularly north of Miami, up the coast towards the right hand side. He must have put a high pressure spot there, because then what it is, it can't break it, the low pressure spot, and it can't go left, it can't go right, so it just smashes straight ahead into Babylon the Great, America. And that's why you're seeing it go so far into land. You see, I understand this when I'm seeing it. I understand that there's something going on. We know, like I said, we know Esau manipulates the weather. We know the Most High set up a circuit, but I had to get my head around it, and I had to understand the logical process to how he's doing it. Now, I can't sit here and tell you exactly what's happened at what time and when and which places they've done it, but when you see a massive thing like that turbocharged hurricane that hit America, you know that there's some manipulation around there, because it's pushed it in a direction. So now you've got to kind of look at what's around it. There's got to be high pressure spots around that area for it to be directed as snake through those areas. This is another one, just real quickly. This is what is cloud seeding. Step-by-step graphic reveals how the weather modification technique works. They didn't really show you a graphic. I don't know why they wrote that, but it said here, Dr. Brian Thomas from UCL, University College in London, Earth Sciences, explains the 4 stages of natural rainfall: the cooling of the air, the water vapor condensation. That's when you put the cloud seeding, if you like. The drops get heavy enough to fall, and finally the atmosphere imports more water to keep the rain flowing. So it becomes like I say, like a turbo on a car. It's dead, it's still, it's motionless. Once you accelerate on the car and force gas out of the exhaust pipe, as soon as it exits the engine, there's a little piece grabbing a bit of that air and feeding it to the turbo, and now the turbo is in action, and the turbo just feeds off of it and just keeps feeding it. And so the more you drive, the faster your turbo goes, and the faster your turbo goes, the faster it makes your car. You see a lot of prophets on the street, and they're like cussing out because you've got these cars going past, back, bang, 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 and all that noise. And I'm a car guy, and I don't like that noise. But you know why these modern cars do it? Because they're these high-powered cars. I mean, you get the odd like Hemi 5-litre, Hemi V8, whatever, but these Mercs, these Beamers, they're banging and popping down the street. These modern ones, especially from say 2012 onwards, they're small engines for the environment. They're 1.6, 2-litre engines, but they add on not just 1, 2 turbos. See, what they've learned is how to make the turbo powerful. So they've added it to these small engines. So you buy a modern day AMG, and it will say AMG 45 on the back. That used to mean 4.5 litre. Now it doesn't mean that. Now it means it's a 2 litre with 2 turbos. That's why you get that horrendous noise, because like a cat getting strangled, to work at your maximum, work. And then what these people do, they blow their turbos. So, you go back in time to 20, 30 years ago, you used to think that these high-powered cars used to blow past you. I mean, obviously, you get your Ferraris and Lamborghinis, they screech all the way anyway. But I'm just talking about your average normal cars. You go back to an AMG 30 years ago, it didn't have no turbo on it. It just had a big 5-litre V8 Hemi. And so what you'll notice, I've got one. So what it is, you start that and you put it next to a modern one. It's loud, but it's bassy. And so it's a totally different sound. That's why it wouldn't have been so bad. You'd still hear it and notice it. It's a high-powered car. It's chopping down the road. You can hear it. But like I say, you're fast forward 2024. You're standing out in the street. There's all these cars going pap, pap, bang, bang, pop, pop. You got these red eyes. These red eye. Well, I don't know what they're called. The red eye. I see them in America. The red eye, whatever they're called. And people are doing their donuts and their wheel spins, burnouts, whatever. And all you can hear in the car is that the voo, voo, voo at the front, the whistling, woo, adding to the noise. That's the turbo. But, you didn't get that on the old shit, so it didn't really do that. So, I don't know, it just came to mind. But, yeah, like I say, you go back to this thing here. I'm going to finish in a minute if you're wondering, so just hold tight. But, like I said, the cloud busting, you think it's just rain. You think it's just about making a place wet. It's not. It's also about stopping moisture getting to a certain area. If you do it in a circle, you can stop moisture getting into that circle. So you keep doing that, you build up the temperature in that area. There's no clouds, there's no rain getting in that circle. Like, you keep going around the island, eventually it gets hot, builds up pressure. When you build up pressure far enough, you've created an obstacle for the unsettled weather. It then has to go around it, and you've now manipulated the direction of the circuit. Esau's not got enough power to get rid of the circuit, but he can manipulate it. It's Esau's blessed with the sword. So when he opens up that weapons drawer, he's got a lot of things in there. He's got nuclear ICBMs. He's got weather controlling mechanism. He's using the weather as a weapon. He's got the MOTB. He's even got women's liberation as a weapon to you men of the Most High. So, he's got the alphabet agenda. That's another weapon. And, the manipulation of the political system, civil unrest, that's another weapon. He's using it. He's about to... All these weapons that he's got, that we've said over the years, oh, yeah, it's conspiracy theories. Esau's about to pull them all out together. And it's ultimately judgment from the Most High. And that's what I keep saying to you. The Most High is about to turn this world upside down. Last week it was World War III. This week it's this hurricane, cyclone, smashing up America. So what's next week? Something's got to happen next week. It's only makes sense. There's a pattern developing. We're in that time. So before I go, just real quickly, this is Psalms chapter 83. This is a song or psalm of Asaph. And really, I'm just going to jump straight to the verse. It says here, so verse 15, so persecute them with thy tempest and make them afraid with thy storm. And that's what I keep saying. The Most High is bringing that judgment. He's using these weapons against the people of the earth to judge them. But Esau is the holder of the weapons. Esau has the weapons drawer. He's blessed with the sword. In the weapons drawer, like I say, women's lib, alphabet gang, nuclear ICBMs, the police, that whole situation with the police, you going out on the street, watching out on your back every 5 minutes. So you see those blues and twos, you just think, oh shit, here we go, I'm getting arrested again or whatever. That's a weapon against you, and it gets used. Racism, that's another weapon. To call you names because of the color of your skin and to make you feel low in your mind, that's a weapon against you. Esau has all these weapons. We look at like guns and martial law camps. They're the weapons, these weapons, but there's many levels. Eugenics, that's a weapon he uses against us. But the main ones, the real, world changing, turning the world upside down ones, they're the ones that are going to be used now. The ones with the weather, nuclear ICBMs, the MOTB, all those types of things. So I hope that's edifying. I hope it kind of makes a little bit of sense. Like I say, I'm not a scientist, so you may have more to add to that, or you may say this is, or that is slightly different. Fair enough, but I've tried to work it out through the I've got this irritation in my mind that I'm looking at it and I want to understand it logically. So I just broke it down. So I hope that's edifying. I hope you understand it. Until next time, all praises to Yahweh, Ba'ashim Yahushai, Ba'ashim Rakak Kodash. And until next time, Shalom.